topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Camping Show. This is CW Getz.
And Jesse Free.
It's Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. And it is a beautiful day here in Illinois.
Gorgeous.
I just noticed that my mute button kept going on and off and on and off and on and off. So I hope that doesn't continue to happen. We've got a great show here for you this evening. Tonight's topic is the finer points of portaging with our special guest, Cliff Jacobson. Jesse, tell us a little about Cliff, would you please?
Sure. Cliff Jacobson is one of North America's most respected outdoors writers and wilderness paddlers. He's a retired environmental science teacher, an outdoors skills instructor, a canoeing and camping consultant, and the author of more than a dozen top-selling books and a popular video on canoeing and camping. Cliff is a distinguished Eagle Scout, a recipient of the American Canoe Association's prestigious Legends of Paddling Award, and he's also a member of the ACA Hall of Fame.
Well, with that, welcome to the show, Cliff.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me back. It's good to see you guys. You're looking great.
Yeah. Thank you. Looking good. I should have that intro memorized by now.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's good to see you guys.
Yeah, Cliff, I know you just got back from a trip on the Buffalo River. Any exciting stuff happening on that trip or what?
Actually, yes. We've done the Buffalo 4 times.
Yeah.
I think this is the 5th time maybe. And it is one of my favorite rivers. It's one of my favorite U.S. rivers because you can camp anywhere you want on it. You can build an open fire anywhere you want on it. And the water quality is almost, basically it's good enough to drink. But, you still want to treat it. The topography is right out of the old film Deliverance. It's gorgeous. And it's got
my favorite movie.
Yeah, it's got some great campsites, great views with cliffs hundreds of feet high.
Nice.
But when we got there, the first day this time, the river ordinarily, we started up at Ponco, which is fairly high on the river. And generally, you'd be looking for maybe 800 cubic feet per second flow. Well, we had 3,000. So
Whoa.
they shut that whole top section of the river down.
Wow.
The Park Service did. So we just sort of hung out for a day, and we started 2 miles further down the next day. But the Buffalo goes up and down like a yo-yo. It's a limestone base, so you get a little bit of rain, that thing can come up 5 feet, 10 feet in a night, and it'll go down that much the next day. So when we finally got on it, for the first 3 days, we had some really nice rapids, by the way, because of the high water levels.
Sure.
But the 3rd day of the trip, I woke up I got out of my tent, and it's like I couldn't walk. My left knee hurt so bad I could barely walk. I don't know what's going on. I thought, I'm kind of an old guy, so maybe it's arthritis or something.
Oh, no.
But that wasn't it. I could sit okay, I could stand okay, but I could not kneel. It was just too painful. And I'm running all these rapids sitting, and so that's pretty dicey when you got a canoe with a pretty high seat in it. Well, that was part of the problem, and I still have that problem right now. I'm going to see the doctor tomorrow. But the biggest problem that we had on that trip is the Buffalo River ends at the White River, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lodge across the White River.
Yep.
This is where we ended our trip. But the problem is we had to get across the White River to get to the lodge. And the White River is pretty wide. I don't know how wide it is. I'm going to guess it's 75 yards wide at that point, maybe. And they had opened the dam evidently on the
Oh,
right.
no.
And
They
that
released
river was run. I'm not kidding. That river was run. I'm going to guess 8 miles an hour.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it's
And
wicked.
there's all
They do.
sorts of debris in the river from the storms before. And
Mhm.
we had a paddle. We had a ferry across this thing. I knew I wouldn't make it sitting. I would have capsized it. And so I just bit the bullet. It hurt. It hurt like hell. And I paddled as hard as I could. All of us did. We got across barely, but I would say that was one of the toughest paddles a short paddle. It was one of the toughest paddles I've ever done in my life. And at the end of it, we said it's a good thing we didn't have any inexperienced people along, because if we had, I'm telling you, they would have crashed and burned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well,
Wow.
I'm glad things worked
That's
out
the
as
story
well.
on the Buffalo.
Yeah.
Wow. Where
And,
exactly is the Buffalo River? I'm not familiar for those that aren't.
It's in it's not too far from Harrison, Arkansas.
Okay.
It's very pretty country. It's beautiful country.
Awesome.
But if you I would say to people, it's one of my, like I say, one of my favorite U.S. rivers.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very
Hey,
cool.
Lance Chapman just emailed and he says, hope it all works out. Lance, I do too, but thank you for the kind thumbs up. I appreciate it. Made me smile.
Cliff, I took the liberty of inviting Kevin to pop in with us.
Hey, all right.
You mind if we bring him on right now? Let's do it. Okay, let's do it.
Put that
Kevin,
boy on.
There he is.
I can hear your glass clinking already.
It's Captain
Kevin,
Scotch. I love
Kevin,
it.
that is simply not fair. You are having a bad whiskey without me.
Yeah, right?
Now that I got the lake behind me,
Look at that.
birds are singing.
What are you incognito now? Is all I see is a black shadow and a whiskey glass.
Hey, that's not a bad character to have. I can turn around. You'll see me here.
That's because he doesn't want us to see his Scotch face. Oh, there it is. Now
There we go. Now you're blinded by the light.
There he is.
Look
There
he's got squinty
I can't see
eyes
a
and
thing
everything.
now.
Well,
My Lord.
I have only one thing to say to my friend Kevin. Kev, I wish I could beam you over some good scotch.
Did I hear you say Beam? Jim Beam? Oh, the other kind.
Beam. No, not Jim Beam. No.
I wish you can beam me over some vaccine.
Oh, yeah.
You
That would
guys
be
have
good.
more than we have.
That would be good.
Oh, CW, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
I think your ghost turned off that mic again.
Yep, that happened again. I have to keep an eye on that. There's a ghost in my machine, Cliff, so don't feel like the Lone Ranger over there. I got the same thing. Well, and Kevin, you can only stay with us for a little bit, so we'll try to get to the part that I wanted you to chime in, because you had some really interesting trail stories, portaging, and that I had heard you talk about before. So we're gonna try to work that in here, maybe sooner than later. Cliff, when it comes to portaging, there are some people who simply despise it. So what sort of things do we need to think about when we're going to be portaging, and how do we make portaging more comfortable, safer, and more enjoyable for ourselves?
Well, first of all, I can say I don't despise it, but I'm certainly not in love with it either. And, I don't think most paddlers are. But when the choice is between crashing and burning on a fall, on a rapid, or paddling over falls, I'll take portaging every time.
Yeah.
But how do you make it better, safer? There's a lot of things. Okay, first of all, start with the yoke. You got to have a well-fitted yoke, and we can go into that in more detail later if you want. But I would say that's to start with. That's probably the single most important thing. You have to have a yoke that fits you. That fits you. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if somebody else is going to carry your canoe, the yoke needs to be adjustable so that the shoulder pads can be moved in or out to fit your shoulders. Now, most people don't think about that, but that's really, really important, because if you rent a canoe, for example, those pads are going to be set at a distance for the biggest man, probably 9.5, 10 inches apart. Little guy like me, I wouldn't even be able to carry the canoe. And most women won't be able to carry it, and teenagers certainly won't be able to carry it. So you want a good fitted yoke. So you want to start with that. All right. And then you want to keep your load reasonable. And the truth is, most beginners just bring too much stuff. They got too much stuff. Okay. You got to go through that stuff and get rid of a bunch of it. Now, the rule is pack in odd units, not even units. That means 3 packs or 5 packs, not 2 or 4. Why? Because you're probably going to go over the portage 2 times. Say one time you're going to carry a pack. The second time you might carry the canoe, and your partner is going to carry a pack each time. Okay, so that's 3 packs in a canoe. So if you have an even number of packs, then somebody's going to have to double pack. That means either carry 2 packs at once, or you're going to make another trip. Now, while we're on the subject of packs, because this is important too, some people have the idea that if I get a big pack, okay, I can fit everything into 1 or 2 great big packs. Yeah, so then what you wind up with is a load of 60, 70, 80 pounds or who knows what. And you have this big honking thing that doesn't fit well in a canoe. Now, if you load up a pack to 60 or 70 pounds and you capsize and that baby goes in the water, good luck retrieving it because it's going to weigh over 100 pounds. Okay? So my advice is keep the pack weights more like around 45 pounds if you can. Now, if you're better off, if you have to carry 70 pounds worth of food, for example, you're better off with a 35-pound pack and a 35-pound pack. And if you want to carry them both together, that's fine. But don't do it with one on your chest because that's a big no-no because you can't see your feet. And if you can't see your feet, you're going to trip and fall and crash and burn. So instead, carry one on your back and discover what every good Canadian like Kevin has known for centuries, and that is a tump line rules. You carry the second pack on a tump line on your back so you can see in front of you. Now, just let me add a couple other things, if I may, and then we can go on. When you portage, you're best if you can portage with your friends together, so you don't wind up getting lost on the portage trail. This is not going to happen in the boundary waters because that stuff's cleared, marked, and so forth. But you go to Ontario, you're going to have plenty of unmarked portages and you can get off the trail real easy. So if you don't know what you're doing, it's best to follow a friend who does. And I think that's good beginning answer. Okay. What do you think, Kev?
Those are excellent points. I even was in Nova Scotia, and the guy in front of me was portaging with a pack in front of him. I go, don't pull a cliff. No, don't, no, listen to what Cliff says. Yes. Cliff, show him how to wear a tump. Where's the proper area on your forehead for the tump?
Oh yeah, it's right. It's actually about where my headphones are. See, that's the problem people have with tump lines, especially Americans, because Americans are like the 8th graders I used to teach. If they don't get it instantly, they don't want to learn it, see? But they think you're going to put the tump line here and it's going to pull your head back and break your neck. No, it doesn't go there. It goes way up here on your head. So the load is pushing straight down on your head and your strong neck muscles. If your tump line is pushing your head back, you don't have it adjusted right. So you need to take time with this thing and figure it out. And literally a half an inch of adjustment.
Yeah, there's a balance
difference
point
between pain and comfort. You've got to play with this thing till you get it right. And once that tump is adjusted for you, it's not going to fit your friend. They'll have to be readjusted.
Right. Unless he's your twin. Right,
the rare chance of that.
Yeah, right. Did your audio pick that up? Like, this is amazing, guys. I've been doing a lot of stuff lately inside. But, man, it's beautiful out, and Canada geese just flew over because I'm in Canada. Osprey just flew over. Loons have just arrived on the lake today, calling out in the distance. You probably can't hear them.
No.
Oh, my Lord, this is amazing.
I didn't hear a shotgun, so that's good, right?
I got trucks and ATVs, whatever.
Oh, my gosh. We'll have to see if anything else ends up flying over. We're going to actually take a quick break right now, but don't go away. We'll be back with more of the Camping Show on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV after these messages.
Portage!
it is time to go camping. Introducing Campground View's virtual tours. You can tour the campground, see the sites, see if they are available, and click to book your perfect spot. Hit the open road and explore the amazing places found in nature. We make it easy to discover, find, and book your site so that you can go have the fun and freedom you seek. Campground View's virtual tours make it easy and simple for you to see where you are going.
Again, back with our guests, Cliff Jacobson and Kevin Callan here on the Camping Show. So here's a list of things we'd like to get both your comments on and your recommendations for. First of all, I'm going to switch these around. We do a little outline here, but I'm going to start with this second topic here because you're here, Kevin, and I know you gotta head out pretty soon. Trail etiquette. Okay. Jess, why don't you go with the first one there, and I'll pick it up after that.
Sure. Okay. So in regards to clearing a portage path, the do's and don'ts, and the preferred tool for doing so, what can you give us on that?
Oh, well, if you're clearing a portage for the first time, like it's a bush portage, Sandvik. Remember those, Cliff? Sandviks?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
What?
That's what we used when I was in the Rangers, and we would clear, and it basically is how would you explain that, Cliff? It's sort of like a banana shaped hand thing with a blade on it, and you walk. Like a sickle. Yeah.
Well,
and so you clear the brush out because that's the first thing that comes in. It's just brush would be grown in over the last couple of years. And then you'd also have a scout that would go ahead and find the downfalls that would go across, and you'd get an axe and a crosscut saw and get rid of that. But flagging tape too. So you'd flag it on the way there, so then you know how to get back, and then you'd blaze it or put signs up like we would do now. Or just go to a maintained provincial park and pay the fee, and they do all that for you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, actually, for Americans, if you're going to the boundary waters, you don't need to worry about it. That stuff's all generally it's cleared. The trails are cleared for you. But now that money's gotten a little bit tighter, maybe not. But I think you are remiss to go on any canoe trip without these two tools. One is a full frame folding saw, and two is either a strong hatchet or a 3/4 axe, what they used to call a Hudson Bay style axe, because you may have to clear portages. And, I've cleared plenty of them in Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. One that we did in Saskatchewan, I remember on the McFarland River, took us 2 days to clear that out. We must have cut over 1,000 trees. Nobody been through there in probably 40 years.
Oh, wow.
You could still see where the trail was, but there was no way you could get a canoe across. So for those people who tend to badmouth, an axe, I would never bring an axe. Well, let me tell you, you want one, because in the boundary waters, the government clears the trails for you. But in the serious bush, you clear the trails for you. And if you don't have the right tools, you can have some problems.
Kevin, you mentioned something about flagging. What are you flagging with, by the way? I've never had to do that, of course. What are you flagging with?
Yeah, so a roll of flagging tape. So when Cliff and I were in forestry, we would oh my Lord, there's birds everywhere.
Oh, I heard that one.
Yeah, they were attacking me. A flagging tape. So it's just ribbon, and you put it in your pocket and you tie it around the tree. And I even do that when I hang my food at night. I know Cliff doesn't do that, but I'll go back and I'll flag where it is. It just gives you a sense, but there's colors. Sure. So blue is a portage. Red is sort of a survey. It doesn't really matter. I generally use blue because red fades a lot. But I always have a roll of it in my pocket when I'm doing the northern route. When I did the Kopka, the last time I did the Kopka, Cliff, the one portage was flooded, so we had to make another one on the right. And the next year, these guys that went through, they only got through because they found that flagging tape.
Yeah, the flagging, this thing that Kev just brought up is if you're going in harm's way, and that means doing these bush trips in Canada, you want to bring some flagging tape. I've used yellow and pink and whatever. It doesn't matter because you're going to pull them off anyway. And the reason why you want to do that is because you don't know where that portage is going, and you don't even know if you're still on it. Sometimes you get off it and you don't even know you're off it. So you want to flag your way in for one simple reason, so you can find your way back. But it's not a big deal. You go ahead and flag it in as you're carrying your stuff in. And by the way, don't ever carry the canoe first. This is a big no-no, and it comes from boundary waters paddling. People always carry the canoe first because they want to get the heaviest load over as quickly as possible.
Great advice.
The problem is if you do this in the bush country in Canada or in Alaska, you may not even know where you're going, and you certainly may not be able to find your way back. That happened to me many, many years ago. I canoed the English River, and there was a very long portage around a dam on the English River, and I just took off with the canoe. An hour and a half later, I put the canoe down and I said, "Where am I?" Well, somehow I got off that logging road onto something else, and I had to carry the canoe all the way back.
Wow.
And this can happen in the bush. So the point is when you do the flagging, it's like Kevin says, the last person that comes over the portage just picks up all the flagging. You just stick it in your pocket. You're going to need it for the next portage.
Where are we getting this flagging at, fellas?
Oh, you can get it's actually surveyor's tape is what it is. It's a plastic, comes in a roll. It's different colors: yellow, blue, pink, green. I don't know. There's a bunch of different colors. Your local hardware store has it.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. That's what I wanted to let people know. All right, Kevin, I know this is one that specifically this is what I wanted you to talk about because I read something that you had posted some time ago talking about trail etiquette here. When there's a call from Mother Nature, the do's and don'ts of proper trail etiquette.
Well, the number one is never eat blueberries at the put in or take out of a portage, because I guarantee you someone peed there. Right? Guarantee it. So if your blueberry tastes salty, there's a reason. All right. And also, if you're going across the portage and oh my God, I said portage. Joe,
you did.
We
got him.
Look what we've done to you.
Yes.
You're going across the portage. If you have to urinate or do the other number two, whatever, you go 30 meters, 50 meters off the trail. And you might say, well, that makes sense. But I know my past brother-in-law years ago, his very first trip, he hadn't pooped in 3 days. He didn't really know what he was doing, which is fine because I was there to show him. And he said he had to poop. I went, okay, poop. And then he just drops his drawers right on the portage and starts pooping. I went, why would you do that? Whoever brought you up to think that is a proper thing to do? And he goes, well, I just had to poop. I went, no, no.
Were you his only audience or what? At that point,
Kevin told a story about don't eat blueberries. Okay, yeah. I gotta tell you this. This is really funny. I got a doctor friend, and this woman brought her daughter in, and her daughter had an orange complexion. She looked like a pumpkin. Her skin was all orange. And my doctor friend says to her, her mother was very concerned. The doctor says to her, well, what's she been eating? And her mom says, she been eating them Cheetos. She loves them Cheetos. So, she had an orange complexion from eating too many Cheetos. Can you believe?
Oh my gosh.
Hey, some of our listeners here caught you on that, Kevin. You probably will never live that down now. We are a bad influence on you. See what us Americans do, Cliff?
I know.
As Canadians.
Maybe it's a good influence.
I'm drinking Southern bourbon. That's why.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hey, wait, is it American bourbon? Southern American bourbon?
It is American bourbon, actually. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Now we know.
But I got to say that the word portage is a French word, portage, not portage. I don't care how you call it. But also what's really interesting is when I was doing a guidebook in Quetico, I remember the editor just kind of looking at me. I went, no, it has to be in yards, meters, rods, and something else. And he goes, what? And I go, there's so many different cultures using Quetico. You got to put them all in. And Cliff, can you explain what a rod is?
Yeah, a rod is 16.5 feet. A chain is 66 feet. And a mile is 5,280 feet.
And I love the whole rod idea.
When I was a forester, we did everything in chains. We never used rods. But rods are an old measurement, 16.5 feet. It's about the length of a canoe. They still use rods in the boundary waters. But fortunately, in Canada, they don't. All the Canadian maps that I've seen are all in meters. And that makes the most sense.
Well, if you check my Quetico and Beyond book, I made sure it was in rods as well, and meters and yards, just so I could please everybody. But I just confused the editor beyond belief.
I can understand that.
You know, the rod thing, we used that on the farm, and I remember that as a kid. They would talk about so many rods, and I knew that was 60.
I've never heard of that.
I didn't know the chain thing.
Never heard of that.
The chain comes from actually a survey chain that was 66 feet, 20 meters. That if you fought in the war, you were able to get a piece of property, a certain amount of chains. And it was a physical chain you would drag.
Yeah, four rods to the chain.
Yeah, and then when Clip did this when we were surveying timber cruising, right? We would do chains, and it would be a rope at that time. It wouldn't be a chain. And now it's just this computer system on your hip, a lot easier. But you would go that distance and yell out chain, and then the person would measure the trees left and right to you. So that's where that came from as well.
Okay,
I remember those days.
Interesting. So if we're keeping on our trail etiquette, what happens when you meet another group on a very narrow trail? Is there kind of a right of way, so to speak? How does that go?
This drives me insane. Absolutely insane. And I'll tell you so many times when this happened, but the one particular moment was I was going in Algonquin, going across this portage, somewhat busy. I had an 18-foot canoe on my shoulder, right? This person was coming towards me. All that person had was a life jacket and a paddle, but the paddle was held out this way. That person had a T-shirt on saying, "Damn the dietitian." And that person did not give me the right of way. I had to go off into the bush with my canoe so that person could walk by me. And I stopped. And I went, "Hey, I got the right of way." And that person said, "Where's the sign saying that? Where did you get that from?" I went, "There is no sign. It's called being
trail etiquette."
Oh,
Kevin, I'm just so thrilled to know that there are idiots in Canada too.
Not just in the United States anymore.
Oh man! And the other one
had a monopoly on that, but I guess not.
No. And the other one, Cliff, that you'll love is that. So there is no written rule about this, but you should know, when you finish your one carry, a lot of people do one carries, but I do two carries, which means 3 carries. You go across, come back, and go across again. So the first bit of gear is always put to the side because you don't know who's coming the other way, right?
Right.
And so I don't know how many people do this. They just throw their canoe right at the takeout or the put their packs there, and then you canoe and you can't use it, the portage, until someone else comes and clears it. And they always give you this look where is the sign saying that that's the rule?
Well, but every now and then you find somebody, you encounter a party who is really a cool party. If you're going this way and the other group is going this way, if you pick up one of their packs and carry it across for them, they will pick up one of your packs and carry it across for you. I've seen that many times. That's kind of an old woodsman's tradition.
It's so funny you say that because that's what Andy and I do when we're in Quetico. The last time we were in Quetico, my buddy Andy, he did that, and these guys thought he was stealing their packs, so he's going to beat the crap out of them.
Well,
oh no. And this kind of goes right along with that. When you notice a group maybe holding up, or that your group may be holding up another group on the trail, or maybe they're holding you up. It could go either way. Yeah, what should you do to be courteous? I mean, if somebody's holding somebody up, what's the courteous thing to do?
Well,
I mean, do you go, "Hey, you know what? You guys go ahead," or
the only thing you can do is you got to realize that so many people that are doing these trips. I mean, not so much in Canada because you got to know pretty much what you're doing when you start doing these bush trips. But in the boundary waters, probably more than half the people, it's the first canoe trip they've ever made. And they just don't know what they're doing, okay? They don't know what's right. It's just simply a matter of saying, hey, guys, if you don't mind, can you move your stuff over a bit? And they almost will always will do it. It's You got to educate people, and you want to educate them kindly, not with an iron fist.
And I'm hoping some of this is gonna do just that, Cliff. This episode, if enough people see this and go, "Hey, look! We didn't realize that's what you're supposed to do."
Sure,
just like Kevin said, "Where's the sign?" Yeah. Well, there is no sign.
But, it's a tough one because it's not like a bike lane and a hiking lane, where bikes have this sort of rule of conduct where like left, or I forget what they say, but the bike's coming, so you move to the side because the bike's coming. And, that makes sense, but there are some hikers that say, well, the heck with you, like I'm hiking. But when you're portaging, everybody's portaging. So the rule is, if you're slow, you let the people behind you move on and you move to the right. Mm-hmm. It's just a rule. Like, again, there's no sign saying that. The other that's really, really important that we are forgetting so much, and would be the demise of the human species. I swear to God, maybe I'm getting old and cranky, but when you see someone on the portage coming the other way, say hello to them.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on. I don't.
We've lost that, haven't we?
I'm not sure why that has to be taught.
Right.
Haven't we lost that? Hi, how you doing? Thing. Nobody does that.
No. I'm not sure if I told the story before or if I repeat myself, but a couple years ago, these guys kind of didn't say hello to us, and I'm not sure why. My dad always taught me to say hello to people in the bush, because if something happened, you might have to save them, whatever, or they might have to save you. Yeah. So sure enough, these guys, the short story of it is we saved them. We hauled them out of the lake. It was snowing out and they flipped over. They didn't even own life jackets. And then we got them to the fire and warmed them up. And my buddy goes, "You want to say hello to us now?" Like,
now they're going to save your butts.
Right.
Jesse's got
somebody just posted on the screen. I don't know if everybody caught it. So
that was good.
A little education and common sense goes a long way. Mustang 774, you're right on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, right along with that, what about music?
Kevin.
Well, I'll
give us that etiquette
about music. If you're playing music in the wilderness that people other than you can hear, you're a jerk. It's as simple as that. You're not a nice person. You're a jerk. You need to get out of the wilderness and go back and put your headphones on or whatever, because nothing ticks me off more than to have to listen to somebody else's music when I'm out there and I want to hear a moose bugle, or I want to hear a bird call, and some idiot is playing his music. That's a no-go.
Yep.
Period. I heard was one canoe trip with some kids once. There was some people on the other side of the lake. This happened a long time ago, and it's midnight, and he's playing a trumpet, really loud. And I yell out several times, and all I heard was, "Shut the blah, blah, blah up." Well, you know what we did the following morning? We were going down the Frost River in the Boundary Waters. So we were up at 4:30 in the morning. We were actually on the water at 5:30. We passed by their campsite. I got out of my canoe. I took my sheath knife and I cut their tent down. I cut the stake loops, got back in the canoe, and away we went. I was ticked.
Yeah, you weren't upset or anything, were you?
Yeah, I can be very nice, but I can be mean.
Don't mess with Cliff. There's the rule of thumb right there.
The other side of that coin, though, Cliff, is like, and I totally agree with you. I don't get it why you would want to listen to music, but I take a lot of students at risk out in the woods, and they're all different characters and different motivations. And I do remember a trip, and there's a video on it on my YouTube channel that you really should watch. They wanted to listen to their music along the trail, and I went, "No, that's not cool." And they're all like, "Yeah, okay, old man." And then I said, "Okay, let's have a vote on it. Let's have a discussion about it." So they agreed. They did agree. No music at camp. The only time they actually played music with the yes, thank you. On
a boombox, just a speaker, probably.
Yeah, it wasn't boombox. You're that old. My God, CW.
You're aging
I did
yourself.
that. Loverboy.
I played the
Loverboy.
band. Okay, sorry.
Going down the hall in high school with Loverboy playing over my shoulder.
Working for the weekend, right? Yeah.
There's been
Oh, man.
actually a couple times that I've been canoeing where there was somebody sitting on a rock playing the flute beautifully.
Oh.
And I didn't mind that at all. I did not object to that at all. It was beautiful. It was not like just playing, something from a radio or something.
Just no Van Halen guitar.
I think, people come to the wilderness to have a quiet experience, and I think that should be respected.
Yeah,
Well, what happened with these guys is that we also had the rule: if someone's coming the other way, they'd shut the music down, and they all agreed. There was no disagreement. But by day 5, because it was a 8-day trip, by day 5, you could tell that they were lessening the music, because why they were playing the music for the first few days is the paranoia of being out there, and the music sort of motivated them to be in the wilderness. It took all the sounds away, so they're not as afraid. But once they got used to it, then they started singing the songs as opposed to playing the songs.
Oh, that's cool.
Here's another one that I've experienced on a trail. How do you deal with those in your group who only want to carry the light stuff?
Kick them out.
Well,
get rid of them.
Chop it at the bit. I love it.
Oh no! This is good, Cliff. Have you ever done this? It's a tradition for us, and it's nasty. It's the Irish in me. I swear to God. So, if there's someone in the trip that is carrying less but complaining the most,
yes,
you always put rocks in their pack when they're not looking. and they don't know, and you do it in the morning. And this is fantastic. You do it in the morning. So then when we get to camp and they unpack their pack, there's rocks, and they look at you, and then the next morning you do the same thing.
Well, I approach it maybe a little differently. Every canoe, when I was leading trips commercially for Science Museum, Minnesota, every canoe is outfitted with similar amount of weight. And the rules are simple. You're responsible for everything in your boat. You're responsible for packing it, unpacking it, and getting it across a portage. Okay. So now, if somebody finishes the portage and wants to go back and help you out, that's fine. But don't expect it. You are responsible for getting your stuff across the portage. So then it becomes an issue between the two partners. Hey, look, I'm carrying all the heavy stuff and you're not. And generally, if they deal with it, it's better if they deal with it than if the group leader deals with it. And on the heels of that, you also have some people who just can't carry a lot. I had an 82-year-old woman on one of my canoe trips, actually on the Kopka River trip. She could go over Portage fine. She just couldn't carry a lot of weight. Everybody understood that. We respected that. So that's a different situation. But I like, that's good, Kevin, education, and that's good too.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
I wouldn't mess with either of you two. Jeez.
It's evil. It's evil.
Dang.
In lifesavers. So I bring a thing of lifesavers. So every 1,000 meters, I pop a lifesaver in my mouth. And if I do a 3,000, I get the red lifesaver. And I had some guy that just went with us the first time, and he went to eat my lifesavers, and I went nuts on him. And he goes, "What's your problem, man?" I went, "I have a huge problem. Those are my lifesavers. Do not touch my lifesavers."
We got about 10 minutes left, fellas, and I got quite a few things I want to cover. So, Jess, you got one here under methods. Let's talk about that.
Sure. For methods of portaging or portaging, however it may be, dividing long portages into 2 sections or go straight through.
Well, it's not any faster or slower whether you divide it in 2 or 4 or 5 or whatever. On a long portage, you're going to have to divide it up because it's too far. Yeah. But if you're on the tundra where there's no trees, now you need to portage together. You need to portage as a continuous phalanx to a certain spot. Then you put all your gear together. Maybe you even set up a makeshift flag so you can see where you're going. So you're going from one point to another point to another point. But it really doesn't matter. Some big people, they can do they can do a half a mile or 3/4 mile portage all in one shot, and fine, they do it and they come all the way back. But generally, if you stop halfway and you come back, you're probably a little bit more rested.
I do that with distances too. So if you're doing a 2 kilometer portage, 2,000 meters, what I generally do is instead of, like, I don't do the one across unless I'm doing something crazy that I need to do that, but I'll do the 3. But if you do a portage and a half, so basically what you do is one person takes the canoe, they head right across the portage, and instead of pacing yourself and doing the pacing factor, you actually do a calculation by time. The average portager on a good trail, not a bush trail, can actually go 1,000 meters every 20 minutes, 22 minutes, they actually say. So what I would do is after 20 minutes, I put the canoe down or hang it in a tree. I go back and get a pack. My partner has got the other pack and the barrel, and they're heading right across. So they do the whole 2 kilometer one. They come back, get the canoe, and take the canoe. So we're cutting a whole length of that portage down by doing that.
So you actually get
let's add a little tidbit into this, and that is, if you're doing and this sometimes even works in the boundary waters, but another reason why I'm telling you to carry the canoe last is because when you go over that portage your first time with a pack and you're walking back, sometimes you can actually find a better put-in. You can find a put-in that's maybe halfway or 2/3 of the way. And if the canoe is already over on the other side, you can't do anything with it. That's why you really want to leave the canoe in a couple paddles anyway, I think, for the last trip. That way, when you walk back, if you see, hey, we could actually put in here and save 200 yards of portaging, let's do it. I've had that happen many times. But the deal is, if you don't look, you won't know. And the mentality in the boundary waters is, oh, this is a portage on the map. We have to go from here to here. God ordained it. That's how it is. Okay. No, it really isn't. You might actually look around for a while, and you might actually find a creek you can paddle down and maybe completely avoid the portage. Again, if you don't look, you won't find it.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to put these two together because we're running a little late here. Which we're all good stuff. We may have to put this into two episodes here, part 1, part 2. But I'm going to ask you this: traveling in a group or going individually, and then what do you do with someone who gets injured? Let's just say they sprain an ankle. How do you deal with that?
Somebody who gets what?
Somebody
injured.
Injured. If they sprain an ankle or maybe break their ankle or something like that. But first thing is, do you go together? You keep each other company? Do you just go individually? Everybody go at their own pace? And then of course, like I said, the second part is, what if somebody gets injured? How do you deal with that? They just kind of sit at the other end until everybody else.
I've had this happen several times. My wife Susie, bless her heart, she brings too much stuff. She's like a walking garage sale. Okay, I love her, but to her credit, she carries it all slowly. And when we were doing a river in Saskatchewan, it was the McFarland River. She got off. She was so slow she couldn't follow us, and the trail hadn't been used for a while. She got off trail, got lost.
Oh wow!
So I'm already making dinner for the crew at the end of the Portage where we camped, and it's 5:30. She still isn't there. She's been gone for an hour and a half. I went back and looked for her. Fortunately, to her credit, she was only about a couple of 100 feet, not even that, 150 feet maybe off the Portage Trail. She had her sleeping bag out. She was going to spend the night there, and I started blowing my whistle and found her. So if you don't go with the group, you can get confused. You can get lost. So bring a whistle. It's good for finding people lost on Portage.
Sure.
Good point.
Very smart.
We have a rule with my buddies, or even when I'm taking youth out, that we're sight distance or hearing distance, no more, because I don't know how many times that has happened where someone's gone left and then we waited for them, and what you have is you have that sort of type A marathon person. Let's go, and then that's the person you're looking for. I swear to God.
Right.
I'm going to jump in here, Jesse. You got a question, and it's the one right before the end here. But I do have to bring this up. Canoe carts. That's always a big question. Where to use, when to use, all that kind of good stuff.
What was the question again?
Real briefly. Canoe carts, Cliff. When to use, where don't even think about it, that sort of thing. Just real quickly here. Canoe cart.
Canoe what?
Wheels.
Cart.
Oh, wheels, carts.
Mhm. Yep.
I've never used them. I can't comment on it. You can't use them in the boundary waters. They sure won't work in Ontario. They won't work in most of the serious canoe country. You know, if you're going to do the Northern Forest Canoe Trail or something like that, you know, I guess fine if that's what you want to do. Personally, I just roll my eyes when I see those things. But I guess for certain situations, I guess they're fine. It's just I've never used them, so I really can't comment.
Okay.
The park that's just north of me, Algonquin, they actually have the map showing where the canoe cart portages are and the portages are. Because traditionally, people that would want to go in, where some lakes you're allowed to have a motor, they would haul stuff in an old road. And that's all doable. I mean, it's a longer trip, but they have the carts. At the end of the day, like the Dixon Lavier Portage, you can cart it on a long trail or do the other one. Both are like 5 or 6 miles anyway. So it all depends on your style. And yeah.
All right, real quick. What advice would you guys recommend somebody who has never portaged before, but let's say they're ready to head out on a trip in the near future, and it's definitely going to involve portaging?
All right, I'll make it real brief. Number one, go ahead and pack your packs up. If you're going for a week or less than a week, and you have more than 3 packs in that boat, you got too much. Everything goes in packs. Nothing is loose. Have no loose items, and forget the coolers and stuff. Weigh the packs, see how much they weigh, see if you can carry them, and it's simple as that. Cut the stuff you're bringing, and you won't have a problem. And beginners can't seem to do that. They think they got to have this, they got to have that. And you know what? If they would take time to, and with due respect, if they would take time to read one of Kevin's books or one of my books, hey, they would say on the subject, they would save themselves a whole lot of grief and effort.
Just remember, the greatest thing about portages is that it actually it will define wilderness. If it wasn't for a portage, there'd be too many people parking there and having a great old time playing music.
All right.
It's like black flies. It separates out the portagers from the chaff. Right.
All right. Well, we are actually going to just take a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the Camping Show on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV after this message.
It is time to go camping. Introducing Campground View's virtual tours. You can tour the campground, see the sights, see if they are available, and click to book your perfect spot. Hit the open road and explore the amazing places found in nature. We make it easy to discover, find, and book your site so that you can go have the fun and freedom you seek. Campground Views.
Cliff and Kevin, thank you both for being our guest here on the Camping Show. It was a pleasure having both of you on. Thanks for joining us also, Kevin.
Yeah.
Well, good deal. Thank you, guys. Great seeing you. Well, we hope you'll tune in for next week's episode, Threat of Danger to the BWCA, with special guest Tyler Bryan.
Until then, thank you for tuning into the Camping Show.
This is CW Getz.
Thanks for
and
having
Jesse
me.
Free.
Reminding you.
Take care, my friend.
Yeah, you too, Cliff.
Okay.
Learn more, do more. See you guys later.
Bye, guys.
I see you on the portage.
With tunes.